Greetings, delegates. We welcome you all to the 8th edition of the Novices Summit, an organization trusted for its quality since past 5 years. As promised, we will be delivering our 3 plus 1 training session.
Before we start with the session, we have a few important announcements to make in front of all of you. First of all, please be very active on your emails because we constantly mail you updates over there. You can also follow our Instagram, which is @the.novices for regular updates. Secondly, make sure that you all have joined the WhatsApp community and Telegram lobbying groups already, and the link for both of these have already been emailed. Third, the background guides will be mailed to you 10 days prior to the event.
Fourth, the itinerary and dress code will be released 3 to 5 days prior, but keep your Indian and Western formals ready. Fifth, if you have doubts, you can reply to the messages on community and your doubts will be answered in 24 hours. We will be sending a message for the same every day till the conference. Sixth, these sessions are being recorded. Recordings will be shared after all the sessions are over.
Now, I believe it is time to commence the session covering creativity behind caricatures for the day. And for the session, we have with us Miss Vanya Markin, who can do it all herself, an absolutely amazing human. Miss Vanya Markin, everybody, please give her a huge round of applause.
Right. Thank you so much, Ganesha, for that warm introduction. Hi everyone, I'm Vanya, and even though I will not be your executive board for the conference, but I do have certain expertise with regards to the whole concept of IP in MUN. To begin with the session, we will firstly start with what is MUN, why we do MUN, what is United Nations, and then we will switch off to IP, because for international press to function they need to have a certain understanding of what it requires to be in a model united simulation, right? To start off, Model United Nations is basically an academic simulation of the United Nations, right? All of you know that. But the main, agenda or the essence behind us simulating the United Nations is because so that we all understand the international relations and the how what happens with regards to geopolitical arena in an international platform, right? So that is why we simulate a model of United Nations. We don't have any mock United Nations. Why? Because mock means that you are replicating something as it is, whereas model means that you are inspired by something and then molding it in your own format, right? So that is the meaning behind Model United Nations. Now, when we say that MUN has UN committees, right? They have UN United Nations committee, for example, UNHRC or like WHO even, right? So those are related to United Nations. Whereas we also have a concept known as Indian committees in MUN as well. Why? So that we all understand the international relations. Even though we understand the international relations, we understand the geopolitics, but what will happen when we are unable to understand the domestic policies and laws of our own country, right? When your own government is unstable, how are you going to defend it in an international arena, right? So that is the essence of us simulating Indian committees in Model United Nations as well. Even though majorly it is regarding United Nations committees, but we have an add-on or an Indian touch to the concept of MES. That is our AIPPM, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha committees. That is our Indian committees, right? If I give an example, any single concept that touches any cultural boundaries have their own touch or a take to it. For example, if I say about communism, then the idea of communism in North India would be different than South India, right? So that is the main, the difference as to, or if you take MEN as an example as well, in European circuit, what you will see that you will see a House of Common, House of People being simulated along with the UN committees, right? So that is their integration of their own domestic policies with regards to the MUN structure as well, right? So that is what we have over here as well. The international standard, that is the United Nations committees, plus the Indian touch, that is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the AIPPM, right? Uh, Now, one distinction, that is the United Nations participants are known as delegates. Why? Because they're representing a country, whereas the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, or Indian committee people are known as members. Why? Because they are different party members of a political party elected to that particular assembly, right? Now, coming to the International Press Corps, or IPC as we say, now there are different certain committees regarding IP that are being simulated in different circuits. For example, in India, we simulate IPC or IP, whereas in Europe, in US, what they simulate, they have UNCA, they have United Nations, they have UN Press instead, right? So again, the concept more or less remains the same, but what your responsibilities, what your tasks, what you have to do are a bit different, right? So when we say, or when we talk about international press corps, as the name suggests, it is an amalgamation of like different portfolios or like different news agencies coming into one as an international press corporations, right? So you are coming as a representative of a particular news agency or a newspaper and reporting on the events that are happening in the MUN. For example, if I say that I am a journalist from the Times of India, then that is what I mean, that I will be going to the UNCSW committee to report what is happening in that committee or during the events of that particular MUN, right? So that is my take on IPC, that you are a third party in the committee of the United Nations of the MUN over here, right? So you are basically reporting whatever is happening in the committee. Taking a real life example as well, what does a reporter do? They report what is happening in a particular event, in a particular conference, right? So the same concept over here. You will be given a particular committee beforehand of the conference. You will be given a committee so that you can research upon the same, and you will be reporting with regards to agenda or with regards to that committee only, right? So you are going to either represent a particular news agency or an independent journalist or an independent caricaturist portfolio, right? Now, the difference between IPC and UNCA is that in IPC you have the liberty of going independent, or you can portray yourself as an independent caricaturist or an independent journalist, right? But in other UN related press committees, what happens is that since you are given a portfolio, for example, Times of India or Hindustan Times, right? So you have to write or make caricatures according to those particular agencies, policies, or writing style. For example, if I say that I am a caricaturist from Times of India, then whatever political ideology that Times of India follows, or whatever political party that they support, I will be drawing my caricature according to that particular political party only, in support of that only. Why? Because क्योंकि like मेरी जो न्यूज एजेंसी है, whatever my newspaper is, I have to be in alignment to their ideologies. Otherwise, I mean, we cannot go independent when you're already a part of that particular agency, right? Giving a real life example as well, you're working in a company, you have very different political views, but they are right wing aligned. So you have to align yourself to secure your job at the end. Even though we say that journalism, caricature should be independent or should be unbiased, should be truthful in nature, but we all live in a capitalistic society, and for any single function, any single organization to function in any society, especially in a capitalistic one, they have to have certain political backing or have certain resource at hand, right? So that is why a lot of news agencies or newspapers maintain neutrality. Why? So that they can benefit from two sides at the same time, right? So that is why if you have been given a particular news agency beforehand, you have to research upon that particular portfolio as well, so that you understand what their ideology is, and then you can go ahead and make your caricatures according to it as well, right? So there are certain standard MUN terms, for example, delegate, what it means about delegate, what you have to do in the conference, right? So there is a certain thing called rules of procedure, ROP, that is being followed in any committee. That is, giving a real life example, you have your schools, right? So you follow a certain rule of guidelines, you have a certain flow or a schedule that you follow in your schools or colleges as well, right? Same concept over here. You will be going to your respective reporting committee. So the committees that has been assigned to you other than IP, that would be called as the reporting committee, right? So in the reporting committee, what you will see, especially in UN committees, you will have GSLs. For example, that the full form is General Speakers List. The delegates in the committee will give a general stance on the agenda, right? Then we have a moderated caucus. You have been given a topic that they have already given a speech in the GSL upon, right? That topic, the main topic. In that main umbrella topic, there would be certain issues or challenges or like certain subtopics to that topic as well. So that is usually how the delegates decide that what would be the GSL and what would be the moderated caucus topic, and that is what you will be seeing in the committee as well. Then they have unmoderated caucus, that is an informal session between the delegates and hence should not be recorded. Why? Because it is informal in nature, right? So whatever formal proceedings are going on in the committee, that is what you are going to note or that is what you are going to observe, right? So, giving a very simple example of your school life as well, you have what period one, period two, and then there are different subjects regarding it as well, right? So, for example, you have your SST subject, and then it is bifurcated into four parts, that is geography, history, pol science, economics, right? Similarly, we have one topic that is women empowerment, and in that particular topic, we have different segregations or challenges to it. For example, bridging the wage gap between gender minorities, political participation of women, right? So these are topics related to the main topic, and that is something that the delegates in the committee will decide. Your role is a third party role. You're not supposed to directly intervene, you're only supposed to observe. And I know observation in a particular committee can seem like very, very boring or something that you are not going to enjoy a lot, but trust me, when the debate happens in the committee as a spectator, you're going to enjoy it a lot. And when you're going to draw, your caricatures around it, that is something that you are going to enjoy in the conference as well, right? Especially in the Indian committees, if I say so, the concept is a bit different. That is, instead of GSL, they have opening statements, but the concept is the same. The terms are a bit different. That is, instead of GSL, Indian committees have opening statement. Instead of moderated caucus, Indian committees have public session, and instead of unmoderated caucus, they have private session, right? So again, concept is same. That is under stance, then the subtopic, and then the informal session. But the difference is that in the private session, the press or the media should not be present because they are having a closed door meeting during that time, right? So that is the main distinction. And something fun that you will see in Indian committees as well is that they make retorts, they make remarks, they make certain sarcastic remarks that are so funny in nature that you're bound to have fun in the committee. For example, you can even take example of real life scenario as well. What have you seen in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha? The members, what are they doing? They're throwing chairs at each other. They're discussing on a particular bill or an a policy, and then they are going rebellious during that session, right? So even though it is something that is very controversial, it is something that should not happen, but it happens even in reality as well, right? So similarly, you will see a lot of banter between the delegates happening in the committee, and a lot of boisterous remarks being made in the committee as well, right? So that is the crux of what you will see in the MUN, right? This is the crux of what you will see in the MUN and what to do, what not to do, right? Any questions as of now before I switch on to what you have to do as a caricaturist? If I know you cannot turn on your mic, but there is a chat feature over here, or you can raise your hand and I can take all of your doubts. I know it can seem a bit overwhelming as to what you have to do, how to do it, but let us know. We're here to help you out, right? Okay, coming to the caricaturist portion. Let me switch the camera screen back to it. Right. So, what do you understand by caricature or a caricaturist, right? To give you a simple idea, caricature is part of art, right? Art is like a certain umbrella thing or a certain wide aspect of something that you draw, right? Again, art is subjective in nature. What if I find something poetic and you don't? But that does not mean that it is not considered as art, right? It is subjective in nature. But in MUN context, what happens is that we are kind of restricting it a bit with regards to caricatures. Why? You see political caricatures in your daily life as well, right? There is a very prominent caricaturist, Mr. Lakshman, right? We have seen their caricatures in Paul Science books as well. He's a very renowned caricaturist. He shows the daily lives of a civilian who is, not able to flourish in the government. Why? Because that is his ideology. That is something that he wants to show to the world. Because the reality is that politicians make fake promises and don't deliver it, and it is the civilians, it is the citizens of that country who end up paying the price, right? So whatever that you draw, whatever that you have your opinion on, you should have a proper understanding of why it happens, what happens, and why you are important in that particular role, right? So, for example, if I say that I am Vanya and I am going to report in UNHCR committee, that is Higher Commission on the Refugees, right? And the agenda of that committee is about Israel-Palestine conflict and the displaced Palestinians. Now, all of you know that a lot of lives are being lost during that particular conflict, right? So, I will research upon that situation, why it is happening, what is happening, and I would basically have my own interpretation or my own opinion to that situation, right? Why? Because until and unless I understand the situation, how will I make a vision or a caricature out of it, right? If you don't have an understanding, if you don't have a vision, you're not going to be able to put it on the paper or put it on anywhere, even in your own words as well, right? So that is why an understanding of the topic, a research on the topic, and the reason behind it is very important to form your opinion beforehand, right? And your role as a caricaturist, or what you are doing in the committee, is basically, I'm not saying that you're only going to draw caricatures, even though that is your main task that you're going to do. You're going to draw cartoons, right? But it is a bit different than the daily cartoons that you see. Why? Because cartoons are, for example, you see cartoons on TVs as well, right? They are humorous, they are funny in nature, but they are not political in nature, usually not political in nature, right? Whereas caricatures or caricaturists are supposed to feel, uh, openly about certain topics, certain situations, and they are supposed to report it, but in the format of a visual art, right? So that is the distinction between a journalist and a caricaturist. Even though both of you are very, I would say, creatively talented, you all have a creative flair. But a journalist is only going to pen down their words, whereas you have the responsibility of molding that situation into a very creative visual format. Why? Because a person may have a language boundary, but it can still understand pictures, right? If we take the historical example as well, we have a record of history during the cave paintings. It is a We have the record of history because of those cave paintings, right? That is the essence behind art or drawing. If we That is something that is included in our nature even beforehand, then we were able to have our intellectual minds, right? People may have language boundaries, but they're still able to understand certain visual images, right? That is the essence behind a caricaturist and your spectacular role in an MUN, right? If I say that caricaturists are a bit different from cartoonists by nature, only a little bit. That is why, because cartoonist does not take a particular topic in hand, the subject in hand, whereas a caricaturist have to do a bit of research with regards to the agenda that you're reporting upon, right? So that is the main difference between a cartoonist and a caricaturist that you have over here. Your main task would be again to draw caricatures, but the elements, the essence, the context behind that caricature is what is more important, right? And there is a very distinction, a very small line between caricature art and like normal art. Why? Because even though caricature is a branch of art, but there are different branches of art as well. For example, realism, oil painting, watercolors, right? So these are different branches of art. So, but your role as a caricaturist would be to strictly and do adhere to the rules and guidelines of a caricature, right? For example, if you take a subject, then if you have to make a political and satirical caricature of that person, what you will do? You will take the essence. For example, you will see over here that this is a caricature of Taliban government, right? Even though they say that they have been elected, but we all know that they are a Taliban government, right? So this is the whole context. You have done your research, so you will show that they are wearing a fake mask and providing or saying to the country, the other people in the world that there is nothing to worry about, whereas everyone knows the political unrest in Taliban government as well. For example, you will see in Afghanistan that the people in Afghanistan are not able to speak. They are put behind, their burqas. They're not able to travel without their husbands or a guardian, right? So that is the suppression of women. So even in this caricature, you can show a particular, government or an official of the Taliban, and you can show different people, women in the background, having their voices silent, right? So that is the whole essence behind researching and how you can pen your vision in the format of a visual art, right? I hope all of you are getting my point and what you have to do during the conference, right? A quick thumbs up would be appreciated so that I am not talking to the screen. Right, perfect. At any point, if you have any doubt, you can use the chat box or just let me know, right? I know it can seem a bit overwhelming, but during the conference, you will have a lot of fun during the IP sessions. We do call the IP as one of the very important and digital committees in United Nations or the MUN. Why? Because all of you are going to work as a whole or as a committee together to report what is happening in the conference. Even though we say that it is a competition at the end, but it is still something that we will collectively do as a group, right? Right. So to elaborate more on the types of tasks that you may see on the day of the conference, it is not compulsory that you will be drawing every single task that I am mentioning over here, but it is something that you can take, ahead in your future oncoming MUNs as well, right? So one of the tasks that you will see is called an agenda-based caricature, a very simple caricature that is you have been given a committee before and there is a topic of that committee, right? So that is known as the agenda of that committee. So you will research upon that agenda and then you will make your opinion and your visual caricature out of it, right? So again, giving the example of Afghanistan and the Taliban government, you will see that they are wearing a fake mask over here and saying to the whole the global world that there is nothing to worry about, whereas we know that they are militants in disguise, right? So that is my opinion on it. Whereas you can show a different opinion that they're flourishing or they're making their country stable in nature, right? So again, different people, different opinions, different caricatures, right? You have to show your own opinion in the format of a visual art. I may have a very neutral stance, you may have a very radical stance. That is completely fine. There are supposed to be different facets of different opinions on a particular topic. That is what makes a discussion fruitful in nature, right? And that is why your caricature is bound to be useful in any context possible, right? Do you
Vanya,
have any
Yogini
questions?
had a question.
Yes. Right. Yes, you.
So she's asking, how do we get to know that on what do we have to make the caricature?
Right. So your executive board, what happens that you will have your committee, your Telegram groups or your WhatsApp groups beforehand, right? You have to join that, and in that particular committee group, your executive board will assign you a committee around 1 or 2 days prior to the conference, so that you can get your committees and agenda beforehand, and you can research upon the same. But it is something that your executive board will do only 2 days beforehand, because we know what happens is that on the day of the conference, people pre-make or do their work and then submit it as it is, and that is not ethical in nature, right? So 2 days beforehand, you will get your committees from your executive board, right? And coming to the second task, that is a comic strip. Uh, I hope all if not most of you have read through Marvel, DC comics, or Spider-Man comics, right? So what happens is that it is similar in nature. You have a particular story in mind, and you make 3 4 panels caricature out of it. For example, this is a caricature, right? Or a comic that we have. There are two people and they are saying that they want to try something new, and then he is trying to convince his friend, and then we have MUN, the concept of MUN over here, right? So this is a story. You can have your own creative freedom to it as well. You can show a very emotional story of a victim. I would say a 10-year-old refugee in Syria is suffering through starvation, and that is a story that you want to show in your comic strip. That is something that you can do as well. A comic strip is supposed to tell a story. That is the essence behind it. That is why it is more than one panel, right? You can take 4 5 panels, and then you have to depict a story about the agenda, about the MUN, or anything relevant that you see is, but it should be relevant to the concept of MUN. That is the whole point, right? So if I say that I want to show the political turmoil, or bit in Russia-Ukraine conflict, so what I will do, I will make Vladimir Putin and Ukraine over here in the very first panel trying to have a negotiation. Then in the second panel, then the negotiation gets cut short because USA intervened. Then a war broke out, and then who is profiting? USA, right? So that is my story line that I have envisioned, and that is something that I will portray in the format of a caricature as well. Got it? uh, Third caricature is a committee based caricature. So what happens is that you will see in your committees there is a discussion happening, right? In that discussion, there is bound to be certain controversial statements. There is bound to be certain spicy news, or like certain, humorous comical situations that you will see in the committee, right? For example, if I say, a committee is going on, and a pigeon flew over from the window, and then it crashes during a discussion in the committee room. Now that is a humorous comical situation, right? And it also raised havoc in the committee. So that is a situation that you can depict as it is in the format of a caricature, right? So it's solely an observatory, or like observation based caricature. So you observe something or an instance in the committee, and then you portray it in the format of your committee based caricature, right? Or giving another example, for example, Narendra Modi calls Rahul Gandhi Pappu in the committee. That is, a usual political banter in AIPPM. Now, this is again a comical situation. You will depict Narendra Modi ji saying, or like calling Rahul Gandhi ji over here Pappu, right? So that is the whole caricature. That is the whole caricature behind the committee based caricature. Anything that has happened within the committee boundaries of your reporting committee, that is humorous, that is comical, that is satirical, is supposed to be put in your committee based caricature. Fine. Then we have something called as a collaborative caricature or a collaborative task. So all of you know that there are different categories with regards to international press. There is journalism, there is caricature, there is photography, right? So, since all of you have different categories, but since I already mentioned that all of you will or can work as one committee, what you will have a collaborative task instead, right? So, a caricaturist can be given a journalist to collaborate and write a particular, so they will write a particular article, and you will be drawing your caricature according to that article, right? You will see, for example, you will see in your newspapers as well, there is an article and it is accompanied by a caricature, right? Or a cartoon to depict what is happening in that article, right? So same concept over here. You will, or you can be allowed a particular journalist to collaborate with, and they will write an article and you will draw your caricature on that. Or you can interchange it, that you can draw the caricature and they can draw, or they can write the article upon the same, right? For example, if I say that you are reporting about the USA, right? So you already know that the government is in a shutdown situation, right? So you will draw a caricature about USA shutdown of the government, and what happens is that the journalist will write about the US shutdown and what is happening in that situation, right? So that is how the collaborative task usually goes. Then we have a caricature of a character, that is something that is happens in the committee. For example, a delegate is speaking very fast and no one is able to understand what they are speaking, right? So that is a very unique person in the committee. What you will do, you will showcase that delegate as a robot or a tape recorder and speaking a speech, and you will show an number of words surrounding that person, right? So that is my vision regarding that robotic person saying their speech and nobody understanding, right? So that is a character that you have found unique in the committee, and you will make a caricature upon the same. That is what is called a character based caricature, that you take one person and you make your own caricature out of it, right? For example, you will also see that there are certain political caricatures of like Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, right? They have taken their real life face and molded it in a very comical or humorous format, right? Why? Because a caricature is supposed to have or like include these elements to make that caricature a caricature. Otherwise, what would be the distinction between you as a caricature, drawing a caricature, and you drawing a normal realistic art, right? So those are the elements, or certain things added on to what a caricature is supposed to be like, right? You can have certain their unique appearances added to it, make it more expressive in nature. For example, if I say that you will see me and you will say that I have a big nose, right? So if you draw a caricature of me, you will emphasize my big nose, right? So that is what I mean. We're supposed to emphasize, exaggerate, humorously exaggerate a particular person's or their unique features, right? So that is the character based caricature. Then we have something called as a filler. Filler is basically what, like as the name suggests, it is basically you filling up, you know, fi- I would say you filling up the remaining spaces in a newspaper. What happens is that when a newspaper is published or when something is published, they have spaces left in between the margins, and they have no way to fill it out. That is when someone draws a caricature as well, right? So to fill out the margins, they make a caricature. So that is basically a filler caricature. You can draw whatever you want as long as it is relevant to the concept of MUNs or the United Nations or the political arena, right? For example, you will see that this is Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump does not look like this. But what does he have? He have unique features, relevant to him. For example, he has a big sweep of blonde hair. He is orange in nature, some would say. He has a big lip or like no lip, right? So that is, elements or his unique features that you are able to easily recognize that person, right? Even though no one knows that this is Donald Trump, but when someone sees that this particular caricature, they will understand, okay, that this is USA and this is Donald Trump, right? So that is what I mean. And if I say that you can take, for example, another example would be China, right? So you can draw their political flag in the background to make it more, you know, out there in nature, but you can also be restricted to the physical feature or appearances as well, right? Moving on to the press conference, right? So the press conference is something that the journalist does during the conference, right? So they ask questions to the delegates or the members in the committee. In that heated situation, you're going to depict that situation. That's a very simple caricature, right? So for example, this is a reporter or journalist asking question, like what's the irrelevant question I could ask you, and I have a follow-up question, right? So for example, if this is an interviewer or like this is journalist one, and they ask delegate of USA that why is your government in a shutdown? Isn't this the incompetence of your running government? Then the delegate of answer is speechless. So that whole situation is something important during the press conference, and something controversial, something that could be highlighted, is something that you're going to draw in your caricature as well. Fine. There is a very thin line or a difference between a committee-based caricature and a press conference. Why? Committee-based is upon the committee's discussion, whereas Press conference is only when the questions are being asked by the journalist to the person in front, right? That is a distinction. Any questions about what we will see? Hanji.
Yes, we do have a question. It's by Riddhi. When you were talking about collaborative work within the international press, she meant to ask, do we get to choose if we want to collaborate and the topic on which we want to work?
Actually, that depends on the executive board. IP functions differently under different executive boards and in different circuits. So what I do is that I allocate people, but whereas it can happen that your executive board either allocates or you have the freedom to choose any one person, right? But that is something that your executive board will clarify beforehand, and if they don't, you can ask them upon the same. Right? Right.
All
So
right.
coming to
Anyone
the
else?
elements, do we have another question? All right.
No, I think
Seeing none. Uh, if we talk about the elements of caricature, right? Again, first is understanding the topic, which is very important. That is why we are giving you your committees beforehand as well. You have to understand the topic before you even envision what you have to draw, right? Then what you will do, you will emphasize about that particular topic in the format of a particular opinion or a side that you will take. For example, if I say, my topic is Israel Palestine and I am in support of Palestine, right? So I will showcase the the turmoil, the challenges that they're facing during this whole conflict, right? So putting emphasis on the scope or the concept that I am drawing. Then exaggeration. I will exaggerate the whole tyrannical situation or how the world is silent during the conflict that is happening, right? So that is, I will show USA, China, Russia as spectators and having binoculars, seeing from the binoculars, but staying silent, right? So that is my vision behind it. That is understanding, emphasis, and exaggeration. That are the elements of caricature, right? You can have more elements added to it. For example, sarcasm, humorous or like comical situations added to it. But understanding, emphasizing your concept, and exaggerating the subjects are something that should be constant in every single caricature, right? Now, something now there is something known as a color theory. Now you do have the freedom, of going, drawing your caricatures in a pen format. I have seen people drawing in a normal pen paper format. They use a normal sketch pen, a black pen, and then they submit the caricature. That is fine if you want to go with a black and white caricature, but you can also include certain colors to it as well, right? Now you already know there are complementary colors and there are non-complementary colors, right? So go through the color wheel as well after this session is over. You can see it in the background right as well. There is a certain thing called as a color wheel, right? So the opposite of it is complementary in nature, right? So yellow is complementary to purple, orange is complementary to blue, right? So if you put these in together in a particular caricature, it shows a very a harmonious picture or a harmonious caricature, right? Now all of you know that the primary colors are what? Red, blue. Is it blue or yellow, right? But this is something that is usually in the concept of traditional art, that is on pen or on paper art. Red, yellow, and blue is something of a primary color that you will usually see in traditional drawings, on paper drawings, right? Whereas it changes a bit with regards to digital drawings as well. It becomes a bit different, that blue changes to cyan in nature, right? So it is a bit different when you, whatever medium that you're using. But generally in MUNs we only allow paper caricatures, right? So you will bring your own A4 size sheet and you will draw caricatures on it, right? So you can follow this simple color theory as well. Now there are certain cool shades, there are certain warm shades, right? For example, if I have a brownish skin, right? So obviously you will have to use a warmer shade to complement my skin color, right? So that is what I mean, that you go through and understand the color theory a bit and understand what it means to add your colors to a particular caricature, right? You can also go through, you can do your own research as well. You can go and have inspiration from different caricatures. I would say you can be inspired by something, but never copy it as it is, right? That would be theft, or stealing someone's art. That is not something that you're supposed to do, even as a normal human being. Not saying about the competition, but as a normal human being as well. What if you were in that position, right? Why would you be happy about someone else stealing your art, right? So that is what I mean. You go through and research and be inspired by the art of like different people, and then what you will do, you will make your own caricature out of it, right? Do your own research. You can understand a particular agenda. You can take inspiration related to that particular agenda's caricature, and but you will have to make something of your own, right? The judgment criteria is over here as well. Creativity now, even though I do say that creativity is subjective in nature, but it has to be somewhat judged as well, right? So that is why your caricature should be very creative in nature. It should be creative. It should be original. Again, you can take inspiration, but never copy it. Copy it. That would be plagiarism, right? So creativity, originality, how related it is to the topic, and if you're submitting everything to the as the given deadlines, and um whatever task it has been given, is it related to that, then you always have to put a title on like the above of your caricature. Why? Because a caricature is a piece of art, and every piece of art has a title to it, right? And then you will have the neatness and the intent or the essence behind that caricature as well. Like, were you able to perfectly portray your opinion or your intent to that caricature, right? So that is what I mean, and how neat it is. I would say, your caricature should not be very haphazard, or very chaotic in nature. It has to portray, or put your opinion in a very direct manner, so that even that is what I mean, that there should be no language barrier. There is no language barrier in art, and that is why you have to draw your caricature in a very neat manner, so that you know even though there is an illiterate person who is seeing your art, they're able to invoke their emotions and feelings according to it, right? That is why we say that art transcends boundaries. That is the meaning behind it, right? Then again, the format, as in if it has been sent in a particular format to your executive board, right? That brings us to what you will see in the MUN. What is MUN? What is United Nations? What is your role as an IP member? What is your role as a caricaturist? And what you will have to draw and how you have to draw. Any questions as of now? Any questions? Your background guide will be released by your executive board in your respective groups as well. We'll let you know about the same. Please join the Telegram groups and everything that has been provided to you. And you can always talk to your executive board before the conference as well. Right? Do we have any questions? I am waiting for 5 more minutes. Do we have any questions? If you understood everything, please give a quick thumbs up so that I understand if it is that it is understood by everyone or not. Or you can use the chat feature and put a yes or a no. If you want me to repeat something, I'll repeat everything for you as well. That will not be an issue. But at least communicate with me, right? Members, do we have you over here? A quick reaction. Right. Thank you so much. How many caricatures do we have to make in the conference? That depends on the executive board, how many they tell you, but usually not more than 4 or 5. That is the upper limit, right? Because we know that it is not something that you can easily draw or make. That takes a caricature or caricaturist put a lot of effort into drawing, and not anyone can make a very good art. It takes skills or inherent talent to it as well. We understand all of those restrictions, and we only give you around 4 to 5 caricatures to draw, and not more than that, right? Any questions, anything that you want to address, anything that you want to ask? I am waiting for some more time. All right, seeing no further questions, everything sorted. Vanisha, we can proceed. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Didi. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you still have any questions, I'm sure you can ask the executive board further on the day of the conference. We hope everything was very well clarified for everybody. If you still have any doubts, then you can obviously reach out to us on WhatsApp community. As mentioned earlier, your doubts will be answered within 24 hours. Apart from that, we have our third day session tomorrow, especially for journalists. So if any of you are interested in that as well, or if you know anybody who is doing journalism at Novices this year, please let them know. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I think we're done. Vanya Didi, is that all?
Right, that's all. If you have any questions, we'll also provide the recorded session in the group along with the meeting notes. So see you all at the conference. Thank you so much for choosing the novices. Goodbye.
Thank you. Manas, Adasha, thank you so much.